Warning: this episode contains graphic details involving rape and murder. If this makes you uncomfortable, please skip this story and come back next week. I'll have a light-hearted, festive story planned. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, and welcome to Northern Nightmares, your home for scary stories throughout Canada and beyond. I'm your host, Andrew, and today I'm bringing you a story of a man that once was thought to be a model military officer, until his dark secrets came to light, revealing the true monster that he is. This is the story of former Colonel, now serial rapist and murderer, David Russel Williams. Born March 7, 1963, in Bromsgrove, Worcestershire, England, to Christine Noley and Cedric David Williams, with one brother, Harvey Williams. They immigrated to Canada sometime in 1968 and lived in Chalk River, Ontario. His father was a metallurgist at the Chalk River Laboratories, which was a Canadian nuclear research facility. His mother was a physiotherapist that worked in a Toronto hospital. Williams had a normal childhood. Nothing traumatic happened that would have triggered anything for him to develop a criminal behavior. His parents eventually met a couple in the area known as the Savaskas. Dr. Jerry Savaska worked at the nuclear facility with Williams' father. It's unclear what Jerry's wife, Lynn Savka, did for work. The Williams and the Savaskas were good friends, and even were sailing partners. However, sometime in 1969, Christine, Williams' mother, filed for divorce on account that Cedric, his father, was having an affair with Lynn. It wasn't long before Dr. Jerry had done the same, but within 5 months of this whole ordeal, Dr. Jerry Sofka and Christine had gotten married. It sounds like to me that these two couples were secretly swingers, but that's just my theory. Williams stayed living with his mother and his brother as well, and the new stepfather Jerry. The family would eventually move to Scarborough, Ontario to start fresh together. Moving up to the high school days, Williams started at Birchmount College. He also delivered the Global and Mail newspaper part-time, and his mother also took him for piano lessons. Sometime in the late years of high school, he ended up finishing at the Upper Canada College. In 1981, Jerry accepted a job in South Korea, overseeing another nuclear reactor, and relocated the family there. Williams only stayed for a year, till eventually moving back to Ontario to study economics and political science at the University of Toronto, and was also selected as a prefect at the boarding house he lived in during his time at the university. Coincidentally, famous serial killer Paul Bernardo also attended the same university, graduating only a year after Williams. You have to wonder if these two ever were friends. What's the chances that two of Canada's worst serial killers probably shared classrooms? Williams would go on to graduate in 1986 with a Bachelor of Arts degree. It was 1987 that Williams decided to join the Canadian military, and this is where our story gets interesting. In 1999, he was promoted to Major and posted to the Director General Military Careers in Ottawa, in which he managed the careers of multi-engined pilots. Following his time with the DGMC, he decided to attend the Canadian Forces Command and Staff course. This led to him attaining a Master of Defense Studies in 2004, in which he submitted a 55 8-page thesis that supported preemptive war in Iraq. Later, in 2004, he was promoted again to lieutenant colonel and was appointed commanding officer of the 437 Transport Squadron at CFB Trenton. This squad was responsible for long-range transport of personnel and equipment, air-to-air refueling of fighter aircraft, and VIP transport, also using the CC-150 Polaris aircraft. Between December 2005 to May 2006, he was commanding officer at Camp Mirage, a secretive logistics facility believed to be located at Al Minhad Air Force Base in Dubai, United Arab Emirates support for Canadian forces in Afghanistan. On July 21, 2006, he was posted to the Director of Air Requirements. He served as project director for aircraft capability projects, strategic and tactical, and fixed-wing search and rescue. Some of these aircrafts included the C-17 Globemaster III, the CC-130J Super Hercules, and the CC-127J Spartan. He was also working under Lieutenant General Angus Watt during this posting. In 2009, he was posted to the Canadian Forces Language School in Gatineau, Quebec, for a 6-month period in which he was tasked with a French language training. After this period, he was promoted to colonel by recommendation by Watt, which is now retired. Now, before we continue, I want to say this guy was a somebody in the military. He was seen as a model military officer. I'm sure if things were different, this guy would have went farther up the chain. But what you're going to find out in a few moments is the darkness that existed during these times. I believe his 23-year career in the military was all a mask. The true Williams lived in the shadows and in secret had his own agenda. But let's finish this up now before we get into the details that made this guy truly what he is. In July 2009, Williams was sworn in as the wing commander at CFB Trenton. Outgoing current wing commander, Brigadier General Michael Hood. CFB Trenton was the busiest airbase. It was the hub support for overseas operations, soldiers that were killed in action in Afghanistan and were transported here first. CFB Trenton is also the starting point for the funeral processes along the Highway of Heroes. Since 1999 to 2010, Williams's home location was in Ottawa with his wife Mary. And that's just a little reminder for the next part. Now that I've laid out the timeline of Williams' military career, let's now begin the criminal side of his story. Williams got caught on February 7th, 2010 for murder. However, it was at this point everything fell into place. Before his arrest, it was unknown at the time that he was the reason for a list of break-ins, sexual assaults, and one other murder. The pieces of this puzzle started in 2007, in which several break-ins occurred in the Tweed area of eastern Ontario. The first being when he broke into a 12-year-old girl's bedroom and stole their underwear. This led to another 81 documented events with the same MO. Williams would have a massive collection of photos of underwear, also photos of him wearing them in the victims' homes, and even masturbating on their beds. All these photos would be sorted in a complex folder he saved on many drives. He would trash a lot of the underwear he stole, keeping only a select few he favored. Williams would also leave disturbing messages for some victims as he thrived on the fear he created. Things started to escalate though in September 2009 when Williams broke into one victim's home while they were asleep. then proceeded to sexually assault them while blindfolded, and took photos of the 2-hour attack. After the ordeal, the victim begged Williams to check on her baby, fearing he may have done something, but Williams had not touched the infant. He made her count to 300 so he could escape. His identity was unknown during this time, and another victim at the end of September suffered the same ordeal. On November 23, 2009, he would break into another victim's home, 38-year-old corporate Mary Frances Camo's home, after he cased it previously a few times. On the night he waited for her to come home, in which her life was tragically taken. When he was discovered, Williams assaulted her for several hours, beating her with a flashlight, sexually assaulting her, and then suffocating her with duct tape while recording the whole thing. It was 2 days later that her body was discovered, and in the aftermath of her unknown murder, this monster had the audacity, as the base commander in which she was stationed at, to send a letter of condolences to her father. On January 28, 2010, Williams would kidnap 28-year-old Jessica Lloyd from her home, in which he assaulted her, and her remains would be discovered on February 8th after Williams was arrested. It was discovered the night of her disappearance, tire tracks in the snow leaving her home, which would match to Williams' Nissan Pathfinder. Once the evidence was put together that Williams was the culprit and taken into custody, Williams admitted to the whole thing. At 7:45 p.m., as the weight of the guilt came crashing down on him. The main investigator that cracked and linked all these crimes to Williams was Detective Staff Sergeant Jim Smith and his team, as they were on a mission to find this monster from the beginning. Police found Williams' stash of trophies hidden in his home, which would be the nail to this monster's coffin. Governor General of Canada, David Johnston, revoked and expelled him from the armed forces. He was stripped of rank of colonel, as well as all his military decorations. His uniform was burnt up, medals were cut into pieces, his commission scroll was shredded, and his Nissan Pathfinder was crushed. He was left with his military pension, though, of $60,000 per year, as it would require an act of parliament, which I assume would have been difficult to go through and probably drag out his trial. While waiting for his court dates at the Quint Detention Center in Napanee, Williams was placed under suicide watch as he tried to kill himself by stuffing a toilet paper roll down his throat. In August 2010, Williams decided to waive his rights to a preliminary inquiry, pushing his case straight to trial. On October 7th, his lawyer announced that he intended to plead guilty to all charges. On October 18th, he pleaded guilty to a total of 88 charges, 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of sexual assault, 2 counts of forcible confinement, and 82 counts of breaking and entering. On October 21st, Ontario Superior Court Justice Robert F. Scott sentenced Williams to 2 concurrent life sentences with no consideration of parole for 25 years. Williams is currently in prison at the maximum security prison at Port Cartier Institution in Quebec, and hopefully for the rest of his life. My heart goes out to all the victims and families suffering from this ordeal. I hope the survivors have been able to recover and live happier lives. To the fallen, my heart goes out to the families. Please join me next week, as it will be a mid-season finale of this show, as I'll be taking a couple weeks off during the holidays. Next week's episode will be a festive story, perfect for the holidays. I'll be bringing you a grand tale of a well-known Christmas figure, and no, it's not Santa Claus. This legend comes from a darker side of Christmas, but you'll have to wait till next week. I'll be dropping some fun teasers. Feel free to comment on my posts and stories if you think you know who it is. So my friends, have a good night, sweet dreams, and remember, nightmares can be closer than you think.